There is an unquestioned axiom at the very heart of the Warhammer 40,000 universe, a profound delusion that infects us all. The belief that human courage actually matters. We romanticize the ordinary soldier, believing their bravery holds back the dark. But today, on HaqqRift, we shatter that sacred delusion. What if your courage is just a mathematical variable? Today, we dissect the Astra Militarum and the horrifying reality of institutionalized meat. Prepare to understand that the Imperium survives not on heroism, but on the absolute calculated expenditure of human flesh. To truly understand the dark philosophy of the Astra Militarum, we must first accept the complete and utter death of human individualism. In our modern, comfortable era, we operate under the moral assumption that a single human life is inherently priceless. We believe that every soul has weight, but the Imperium of Man is a galactic, decaying empire fighting a war of total existential annihilation. In a conflict of this incomprehensible magnitude, morality is a luxury that strictly results in extinction. Therefore, the Departmento Munitorum, the cold, bureaucratic heart of the Imperial war machine, does not fight with strategy or passion. It fights with biological calculus. When the Imperium goes to war, it does not evaluate the cost in terms of lasguns, artillery shells, or promethium fuel. Those are precious, highly manufactured resources that require centuries of industrial labor to produce. It evaluates the cost in human lives, because human life is the cheapest, most abundantly renewable, and most worthless resource in the galaxy. The true horror of the Imperial Guard is the absolute commodification of existence. To the high-ranking Lord Generals sitting safely in orbital command ships, a human being is not a father, a son, or a thinker. A human being is simply an ablative layer of flesh, strategically deployed to absorb enemy ammunition so that a Lehman Russ battle tank does not get scratched. We desperately romanticize the concept of sacrifice in war, but sacrifice implies that the soldier made a conscious, heroic choice to give their life for a greater good. In the Astra Militarum, there is no choice. There is only the mandatory, mechanized expenditure of biological assets. You do not die for the Emperor. You are spent by the Emperor's accountants. If the individual is entirely worthless, we must ask a terrifying logistical question. How does the Imperium force billions of ordinary, terrified men and women to charge screaming into the jaws of alien horrors and demonic entities? We define courage as the noble, spiritual triumph over fear, but the Astra Militarum has completely weaponized this concept, stripping it of all its nobility. The Imperium does not trust human courage because human courage is fragile. It is an emotion, and emotions can break under the weight of cosmic terror. Instead, the Imperium relies on a system of engineered, localized psychological terror. This is the pure philosophical purpose of the Commissar. The Commissar does not stand at the front of the line to inspire the troops with speeches of glory. They stand behind the line, bolt pistol drawn, ready to execute any soldier who takes a single step backward. The philosophy is violently simple, yet mathematically perfect. The state must manufacture a scenario where the soldier fears the wrath of their own commanders more than they fear the horrifying monsters charging at them. When a guardsman holds the line against a tyrannid swarm, they are rarely doing it out of a profound, patriotic love for the Golden Throne. They are doing it because the penalty for cowardice is immediate, brutal execution, followed by the eternal political and social damnation of their entire surviving bloodline. The Astra Militarum does not cultivate bravery. It mathematically corners the human instinct for self-preservation, forcing it forward because the only direction that doesn't guarantee instant death from a Commissar's bullet is straight into the meat grinder. Let us examine the primary tool of the Guardsman, the standard issue contrail pattern lasgun. Across the galaxy, this weapon is mocked by enemies and allies alike as a mere flashlight. Compared to the devastating explosive mass of a Space Marine's bolter or the apocalyptic power of Xeno's weaponry, the lasgun seems like a cruel, insulting joke. But philosophically, the lasgun is the most crucial, brilliant instrument of mass psychological control ever devised by human engineering. Giving a terrified, doomed man a weapon, even a completely inadequate one, gives him the illusion of agency. It makes him believe that he is an active participant in his own survival. When a guardsman fires his lasgun at a towering, heavily armored Chaos Space Marine, the weapon is statistically irrelevant. The laser beam will simply scorch the paint on the traitor's ancient armor. It will not save him. But the true, dark purpose of the lasgun is not to kill the apex predators of the galaxy. Its purpose is to keep the human soldier standing in place, looking through the iron sights, feeling the recoil against his shoulder, and believing he has a fighting chance. The weapon is a psychological pacifier. It keeps the billions of infantrymen holding their ground just long enough for the Imperial artillery, the true gods of the battlefield, to calibrate their targeting coordinates and obliterate the entire grid square, killing the enemy and the guardsmen along with them. The lasgun is not a tool of victory, it is a tool of containment. In the mythologies of human history, a single heroic act can turn the tide of a war. A lone warrior strikes down the enemy king against impossible odds, and the battle is won. But the Astra Militarum operates on a doctrine that actively, systematically attempts to murder the very concept of the individual hero. If a guardsman performs a miraculous feat, if he survives impossible odds, charges through heavy plasma fire, and single-handedly destroys a massive orc war engine, the Imperial system does not view this as a glorious, celebrated triumph. To the cold, calculating, paranoid minds of the Administratum, an individual hero is a statistical anomaly, a dangerous glitch in the system. A military system that relies on heroes is a system that is fundamentally failing, because heroes are unpredictable, and heroes eventually die. The Guard does not want heroes. It wants identical, perfectly predictable cogs. It relies on the absolute, grinding certainty of millions of nameless casualties overwhelming the enemy through sheer, suffocating mass. If a soldier proves to be exceptional, they are rarely given a medal and sent home. They are promoted into suicidal shock troop regiments, ensuring their eventual, mathematically guaranteed death. The Imperium cannot allow the ordinary soldier to realize that individual action has power, because if a man realizes he has the power to change the battlefield, he might realize he has the power to change his government. True heroism in the 41st millennium is not celebrated. It is categorized as a deviation from the acceptable mortality quota, and it is swiftly, quietly erased. This brings us to the ultimate crushing philosophical reality of the Astra Militarum. What does the concept of victory actually mean to the Imperial Guard? When a Guard regiment successfully wins a brutal, multi-year planetary campaign, what is actually achieved? They do not liberate a utopia. They leave behind a world reduced to radioactive ash, oceans of dried blood, and billions of civilian and military corpses. The infrastructure is shattered, the sky is permanently choked with toxic ash, and the surviving population is traumatized beyond the absolute limits of human sanity. They have saved a graveyard. And for the surviving soldiers, there is no victory parade, there is no honorable discharge, there is no warm home to return to. They are simply packed back into the dark, freezing holds of massive, rusting transport ships, given a new ration of corpse starch, and shipped directly to the next apocalyptic war zone to do it all over again. Victory is not the establishment of peace. In the Warhammer 40,000 universe, victory is merely the temporary postponement of extinction. The dark philosophy of the Astra Militarum is the absolute institutional acceptance that war is no longer a state of emergency. War is the permanent baseline condition of reality. The universe is a slaughterhouse, and the Imperial Guard is simply the bloody, calloused hand that keeps turning the crank. When we pull back and look at the billions of unmarked graves left behind by the Astra Militarum, we are staring into a mirror that reflects the absolute death of human significance. It forces us to ask a terrifying question. What does it mean to fight, to bleed, and to suffer, when the commanders who ordered your death factored your casualty into a spreadsheet 100 years before you were even born? The Imperial Guardsman is the ultimate tragic figure, a mortal mind, forced to endure cosmic horrors, armed with nothing but a mass-produced rifle, the illusion of courage, and the absolute certainty that their name will be forgotten before their body even hits the mud. The galaxy is not a stage for righteous victory. It is a dark, churning ocean of meat and machinery, and the ordinary human is nothing more than the grease that keeps the gears turning. To understand the Imperial Guard is to understand that in a universe ruled by laughing gods and endless hunger, the greatest and most agonizing defiance is simply refusing to die for one more second. If you have the courage to face these dark truths, if you want to keep looking into the abyss where the rest of the galaxy is too afraid to look, join the Rift, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button to feed the algorithm, and if you wish to support the production of this grimdark philosophy, the PayPal link is in the description below. Treat me to a coffee so we can keep the fires burning just a little longer in the dark. The galaxy is burning. Welcome to the Rift.